Are you surprised that vote after vote, it's just been 3 Democrats time and again who voted for this bill? Does that surprise you?
Yeah, it's Groundhog Day, and I'm just saying, and it's not entertaining. That's a great movie, but this is
And right now, I'm in a minority that I think it's wrong to shut our government down in this situation right now. And now, so for me, and there's things that I strongly believe in too on the Democratic side, but I'm always going to vote country over party. I'm always going to vote for paying for the military over my party and those things, because I think that's what's appropriate right now. The direction where my party's going, I mean, won't see, but I can control my vote and my voice, and that's exactly where I am. And I'm going to call balls and strikes. And it's an easy choice to pick my country over the party, especially in circumstances like this.
Federal employees in the United States will soon miss their first full pay as a result of the government shutdown. Many of them are calling on the government to break the stalemate.
The second longest government shutdown in history continues with no end in sight. Millions who rely on SNAP benefits to feed themselves are preparing for them to run out on November 1st.
I can't afford the stuff at the store.
House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries is calling on the White House to fund SNAP if the government doesn't reopen in time.
The Trump administration has the resources now, including through an emergency contingency fund that has about $5 billion in it.
Democrats opposed a measure that would pay federal workers who are still forced to show up. People like air traffic controllers will miss their first full paycheck in a few days. Workforce shortages have already been causing flight delays, and now future employees are bailing from the FAA Academy.
They're asking themselves, why do I want to go into a profession where I could work hard and have the potential of not being paid for my services?
Democrats are still holding out for an extension of Obamacare subsidies. Millions of Americans could see their insurance costs skyrocket. The clock is ticking, with open enrollment starting in a week.
The crisis has grown worse because of Republican inaction over the last several weeks.
While the shutdown standoff continues into next week, Senate Democrats plan to force votes on reversing President Trump's tariffs.
And another thing that I think voters are going to get pretty sick of, too, is this government shutdown, which is continuing here. And there was an amazing admission from Democrat House Whip Catherine Clark talking about how struggling families are actually now political leverage in the negotiations. Have a listen to this.
I mean, shutdowns are terrible. And of course, there will be, families that are going to suffer. We take that responsibility very seriously. But it is one of the few leverage times we have.
I mean, talking about beatings will continue until morale improves here, this idea that you just use struggling families to make a political point, this must be backfiring on them, surely.
Well, I think it's easy for her to say that when her paycheck still keeps coming. Notice she hasn't said she's not going to take it, anything like that. Surprisingly, Democrats haven't faced nearly as much pushback as they should. And I think it's part and parcel because the propaganda press is doing their bidding. The Democratic-led media is trying to make this as though it is a Republican shutdown. I don't think voters are necessarily buying into that, especially when you have people like Senator John Fetterman, a Democrat from Pennsylvania, calling out his own party for holding Americans and families hostage. But so the reason that I think it's going to keep going is until there is enough public and media pressure on Democrats to open the government with a clean CR, they're going to dig their heels and they're going to keep using American families as hostages and political pawns, all because they want to give illegal aliens free health care.
And this is just something to bring, our Australian viewers up to speed on. To pass that vote, to pass that continuing resolution to keep the government funded, they need 60 votes, not a majority of 51 to make that happen. So that's why the Democrats can still hold the government to hostage on this here. But finally, before I let you go, we talk a lot about political violence on this show and the threat of it coming particularly from the left. Well, turns out Republican Senator Eric Schmidt has maybe heard this call because he's going to be chairing a hearing next week on this threat. Here's a little bit of what he had to say on the matter.
So we're going to have a hearing on it. We're going to have Michael Knowles come testify, who was a victim of a firebombing himself, of what's really behind all this and what are the strategies moving forward. We need to go at this thing and be aggressive, not just play defense, but play offense, because this is a real threat to our country and the fabric of our constitutional republic.
Brianna, what are we expecting to get out of this? Will we find out that there are big money donors, including some that might be quite familiar to our viewers, behind some of these groups that are funding so much of the mayhem in American streets?
Yeah, I think the purpose of this hearing is going to be to thread that needle, particularly of George Soros, someone who donates millions of dollars to organizations like Indivisible, which was behind the No Kings protest, other organizations that have really propped up these protests that also happen to turn violent. And this is an opportunity right now. Republicans have 1 year, in case we end up losing the House, they have 1 year to get and come to terms with who was funding these protests, right? People show up with the signs, they all look the same. You're telling me 1,000 people got together and made the same signs? Of course not, right? There's someone backing these fundings. If you're backing a peaceful protest, fine, but these never turn out to be peaceful in the most part. And we know that political violence in America is coming from the left to the right. We have to figure out, is that organized? Is this part of a larger plan?
Brianna, you're absolutely right. I think there's a lot more to it, and I'm looking forward to finding out what that is. Brianna Lyman, thank you so much for joining me tonight.